I don't have any regrets about not having an engagement, not having a wedding cake, not having a big wedding, not having a honeymoon immediately afterward. I feel so at peace with the way that we did things, and that still surprises me sometimes. Hi everybody, welcome back to our channel. I have been playing around with different rooms in our apartment, and I have just decided there is no position in which I can sit without there being a glare on my glasses. So I apologize, but there's nothing I can do about it. This video is one that I have been debating creating for a while. A couple of months ago, Alex and I did a video together where we talked about how he had, prior to meeting and marrying me, thought that he never wanted to get married. I didn't think about doing a video of my own, but I did have a similar mindset around the time that I met him. And I wasn't always that way, so I wanted to take a moment and also share my side of the story, because it's not like I was this gung-ho, ready to get married and settle down kind of person. Hopefully this video is something that you enjoy and will help you learn a little bit more about us. Growing up in a Christian household and attending church throughout my childhood and teenage years, marriage was something that was seen as very sacred, was seen as something to be respected, to be honored, and to be cherished and protected. Marriage was the norm for me. I didn't grow up in a house, a broken home per se, where my father wasn't present or my mom wasn't present. We had both of our parents there. And it's really interesting to think about, because my mom and my father both had children outside of their relationship prior to us being born. I guess you could say half of us grew up in a broken household, whereas the other half of us did not. As far as I was concerned, I always had the idea that if I was going to get married, I was going to get married one time. I was going to do it the right way, one and done. There was always a part of me that wanted to date with intention and choose somebody who I could see myself being in a relationship with long term. Did I do a good job of picking? No. But I knew that marriage was something that I looked forward to. What changed that for me was the relationship prior to me meeting Alex. I got cheated on. It was a very short relationship, but also very emotionally tumultuous, if I could say that. I was really gutted. When that relationship ended, I kind of took the vow to not be involved with men ever again, or, not women either. I'm just saying I didn't want to get married. My thought process was, my life seems a heck of a lot more complicated when men are involved. So how about we eliminate the man factor and we just focus on living our own fulfilled life? We can adopt kids, and I have always wanted to adopt kids, but I felt more sure of myself in that moment. I started seeking counseling around that time because I wanted to get to the bottom of what was wrong with a lot of aspects of the way that I was handling things in life, and also to rebuild myself from this broken down, really devastated person. The counselor was also a Christian. She started saying, Krista, I feel like God is preparing you for marriage. I was like, that's a joke. We're not doing that. And she didn't push it. It was just this thing that would come up every once in a while where she would go, I still have that feeling. Whenever you're ready, just know that I am willing to pray with you, and we can pray that God helps you find your husband. I put it off for months and months and months, and eventually I reached a point where I think I started to get romantically involved with somebody again, and it was an absolute flop. So when we talked again, I said, you know what? Let's go ahead and pray. If I keep going back to wanting to be in a relationship with someone, maybe I can just pray that I won't run into the wrong person. So the counselor and I prayed, and we just kind of left it at that. About 2 weeks later was when Alex and I crossed paths online, and I knew when I first met him that I was going to marry him. That was when I felt like the hope of being married kind of came back into my life. In the same week that Alex asked me to be his girlfriend, he also brought up the topic of marriage. I was like, whoa, okay, that's kind of cool. At the same time, we need to go see a premarital counselor if this is what you want to do, because I want to make sure I've dotted all of my I's and crossed all of my T's. When we started seeing this premarital counselor, when I tell you everything that could possibly come up, all of the nonsense that could have possibly been exposed was, and it created this really contentious, argumentative energy about our relationship a lot of the time, I am not kidding. We were finding out all of this information that maybe we would have found out in a couple of years or right before getting married. He not only stayed, but he also kept showing up to our premarital counseling appointments. He took the criticism that was hard for him to hear and he acted on it. When I saw that I didn't have to force him into doing these things in order for me to feel like he was putting effort into the relationship, that was what inspired me to see this man as somebody that I could marry. In short, yes. One of them is that Alex is extremely stubborn. I mean stubborn to the point of he doesn't even care if he is illogical in what it is that he's saying. He's right. I am a very logical person where I will break down all the fallacies and point out all the problems before I go along with something. I think part of that was also because of the culture that Alex comes from, where the guy gets to make the final say. He's the head and he doesn't really get much pushback. When we were going through our rough patch, that was one of the biggest reservations that I had, because I was so concerned that if I married Alex, I would be stuck with this person who would consistently invalidate my feelings, that wouldn't take into consideration the people that he was affecting in making those foolish decisions. Y'all, I cried. I cried so much and had so many conversations with God where I was like, you told me this was the man I was gonna marry, and if this is the way that he is, I just can't take this. But every single time I had one of those meltdowns, I would come back, I would read a scripture, or I would randomly hear from somebody something that would confirm or affirm the relationship I was in. Thankfully, that's something that has been worked on. He still every once in a while tries it, but but we are able to talk about the way that we feel and the way that we want to handle things more than just combust upon hearing somebody's idea and not agreeing with it now. It's interesting because I was never somebody that romanticized getting married. I am, again, probably too logical, too practical to a fault. But in my head, I was like, okay, people spend $30, $60, $90,000 on this one day. This is a down payment on a car. This is a down payment on a house. This is enough money to pay off loans. I'm not doing this nonsense. I always just had in my mind that I wanted to do something really simple. The older I got, the simpler that idea got. Had I had my way, it just would have been a courthouse wedding. Seeing how excited he was getting about the details of the wedding day, I thought, you know what, whatever this man wants to do, I will just sign off and let him go for it. It's not too often that I just go, okay, Alex, knock yourself out. We will wear the colors that you want to wear. We will go to eat where you want to eat. The only two things that I insisted on were having a bilingual ceremony and having a photographer. I'm kind of a high-strung person by nature, and I don't know what I was expecting. I didn't go into the day that we got married just worrying something would go wrong, but it surprised me how well everything went. I don't have any regrets about not having an engagement. I don't have any regrets about not having a wedding cake, not having a big wedding, not having a honeymoon immediately afterward. I feel so at peace with the way that we did things, and that still surprises me sometimes. It definitely holds up a mirror to certain aspects of your life, if not your entire way of living, and makes you question what it is that you value, what it is that you're willing to let go of, what things you can compromise on, and what things you are willing to improve. I still believe that marriage is sacred. I still believe that marriage is a covenant. I still believe that marriage is a commitment. And I think now, more than anything else, marriage definitely is harder than people make it out to be, but it's worth it if you have the right partner. Oof, if you're unsure, don't do it. That doesn't mean throw it down the drain. What I am saying is take your time, go slow and steady, and really examine your relationship before you commit to something that is lifelong. Go to therapy and go to counseling, because I honestly think it should be mandatory for every human being to go to therapy. On top of that, go to premarital counseling. There are so many issues that people divorce over, and so many issues that people just don't talk about because it doesn't occur to you to talk about it while you're dating. When you're in an environment with a counselor that can be that objective person and help you think things through or see the other person's point of view through clearly, it removes a lot of the charged, well, you did this and she did that and X, Y, and Z, and invites you both to examine the way that you interact with each other on a level that you just would not do otherwise. That, and to do it because you feel ready and you want to, not because you feel like you're going to lose the person if you don't, not because you feel like you're being pressured to do it, not because you feel like, well, I don't know if anyone else is going to love me, but to do it because you are comfortable with the idea of getting married and you feel good about the idea of getting married. I think seeing how I grow, that's the one thing that keeps popping up in my head. Like, I would love to see the progress that I make as an individual, but also as a wife. And it sounds silly to say, but I am looking forward to looking back. I want to be able to look back and go, we did the darn thing. Like, we did a good job when we look back on the rest of our lives. So I am excited to see what our relationship holds and to see who we become together. All that being said, this has been my take on marriage and why I thought that I was never going to get married. So I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any additional questions, I look forward to seeing them in the comments and interacting with y'all. But yeah, for right now, I'll leave it at that. As we always say on our channel, with God, all things are possible. I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are. Take care.